This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Yun Xiao frowned. He noticed that Li Feiyu's expression seemed to have changed, so he said, "No need, I also have important matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave for the time being. We're all in the city anyway, so we'll probably meet again soon. Yue Yang City is too big. I'm afraid that young Master Yun will get lost since it's his first time here, so it's better for me to accompany him," Li Feiyu said. Yun Xiao's background was too strange and mysterious, and Mo Xiaochuan's strength was also extraordinary. He did not know what secret map he had in Yue City, but he suddenly had the idea of controlling the two. If there were any unstable factors in Yue Yang City, then these two were definitely them. Ren Guangran immediately understood Li Feiyu's meaning and laughed. "That's right. The two of you should come with us to the Myriad Treasure Tower, and then our people will be responsible for accompanying you. It's very dangerous for the two of you to walk around aimlessly." Mo Xiaochuan said, "Why do I feel that following you guys is the real danger? Young Master Yun, let's go. Let's not waste time with these bad people." "Yes, yes." Yun Xiao nodded and turned to leave. Ren Guangyao snorted, "You two don't give Myriad Treasures store any face? You can't even invite me personally?" As soon as his voice fell, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. The surrounding cultivators also seemed to have noticed that something was wrong and became daggers drawn, as if dark clouds had appeared in the sky. Ren Guangjuan was confident that once he spoke, the two of them would definitely surrender. However, the result made him stunned. "It looks like you two have nothing better to do," Yun Xiao said. "Aren't you afraid that your balls will break if the pain is too much?" These words were shocking. They dared to say such words in front of the seventh elder. All the people of the 10,000 Treasures building were stunned. Then, they drew their weapons and surrounded him. Their attacks and steps were in unison. Their imposing manner instantly condensed, and a powerful pressure rolled up. This was definitely a team that had been trained to a terrifying level. Mo Xiaochuan looked around in disdain and scoffed. "What's the use of this group of trash? Do the two of you want them to follow you in breaking eggs?" Li Feiyu was shocked. With Mo Xiaochuan's strength, Yun Xiao could act arrogantly in Yufeng City, but now he was in Yue Yang City, and the seventh elder's cultivation base was absolutely superior to theirs. Yet, he was still so arrogant. What exactly was he relying on? Ren Guangji also cast an inquiring look at Li Feiyu. Li Feiyu felt that he was in a difficult position. If he were to fall out with Ren Guangji, who knew what kind of big trouble he would cause? "I'm just inviting you out of good intentions," he said with a smile. "Since young Master Yun is unwilling, I can't force you. But could young Master Yun tell him why he had come to Yue Yang City? After all, this period was too sensitive. I'm afraid the two of you will be implicated. After all, the two of you are my good friends. Feiyu will protect the two of you even if it costs him his life." The hostility was suddenly inspired by his words, as if he was going to go through mountains of daggers and seas of flames for his bosom friend. Yun Xiao sneered in his heart, thinking that not only did the four prodigies of the north have a high cultivation base, but their minds were also much stronger than ordinary people's. With a grateful look on his face, Yun Xiao said excitedly, "Many thanks to Brother Li for making such a heavy promise, making this one shed tears of gratitude. Don't worry, if I encounter any difficulties in Yue Yang City, I will directly report Brother Li's name. With Brother Li's support, I'm afraid no one will dare to do anything to me." Mo Xiaochuan laughed as well. "This is great. I was worried to death when I came to Yue City first. I was afraid that I'd run into some expert or something. Now that I have the Myriad Treasure Store as my backing, I can do whatever I want." Li Feiyu was dumbfounded, and Ren Guangjuan's mouth was also wide open. They felt that this was very inappropriate, but they didn't know what to say. "You must be joking, young Master Yun. If you don't provoke anyone in Yue City, naturally, no one will provoke you," Li Feiyu replied awkwardly. However, if you take the initiative to cause trouble, then I, Li Feiyu, will also be disgruntled. Understood. Brother Li. Yunxiao shouted, if anyone provokes us, just say Brother Li's name. Young Master Yun will remember Brother Li's kindness. Since the two of you aren't too free, I'm afraid you have other matters to attend to, so I won't disturb you. We're all in Songyue City, so we'll meet again sooner or later. With a single sentence, he rebuffed Li Feiyu's excuse, leaving the other party speechless. I hope so. Young Master Yun is the best friend I've ever had. Li Feiyu forced a smile. Ren Guangjin was shocked. Whether it was an act of affection or an emotional response, Li Feiyu must not be a simple person to say such words. Yun Xiao cupped his fists and left with Mo Xiaochuan. The group of warriors around them were all arrogant, trying to stop them. Yun Xiao's eyes gleamed, and a powerful soul power suddenly spread out. In the blink of an eye, the people in front of him trembled and unconsciously stepped aside to make way for them, trembling as they watched the two leave. Feiyu, who's that young Master Yun? Ren Guangxin asked. He was merely a one-star martial emperor. How could he make Mo Xiaochuan bow down to him? Any martial emperor powerhouse was extremely proud. Even if you were much more powerful than them, they would at most be afraid of you and respect you. But when I saw him treating this young Master Yun, it was as if he was a master and his servant. That wasn't respect, but admiration. Who is he to be respected by a martial emperor? I don't know either, Li Feiyu replied with a bitter smile. Since when did such a person appear in the realm of heavenly martial arts? It seems that we must let the intelligence department thoroughly investigate this person as soon as possible. Yes, I'll give the order immediately, Ren Guangxin said. Also, we can't let them mess around in Songyue City. We have to figure out their purpose and movements. I'll let Jifeng do this. Since it's Jiuhua who's doing this, there shouldn't be any problems, Li Feiyu replied. The people of 10,000 Treasures Tower immediately reorganized themselves and disappeared from the spatial landing area under the lead of Ren Guanghuang and Li Feiyu. Yun Xiao and Mo Xiaochuan left the teleportation drop-off point and walked into the streets of Songyue City. The roads crisscrossed and extended in all directions, highlighting the endless prosperity of the entire city. This was the world's #1 shopping center, Yue Yang City. Although the city was large, 8 flags were erected in the center of the city, which represented the 8 permanent members of the business alliance. It was the dream of every chamber of commerce to have their own floating in the sky. Young Master Yun, Songyue City not only has a lot of merchants, but it also seems to have a lot of spies. We've only taken a few steps, but there are already more than 20 spies following us. It's a sensitive period after all, so it's normal for the Chamber of Commerce's to be a little nervous. Look at these businessmen, they all have their own methods, none of them are ordinary people. Should we think of a way to avoid them? It's not convenient for us to find them. Hide. Where are you hiding? Every citizen here was a soldier, and Songyue City was probably the #1 city in the world. Let them go. They're just doing missions to earn a living. Yun Xiao walked to an old woman who was selling tea eggs by the roadside and said, Old woman, may I know where Tianyuan Trading Company is? The old woman's face was full of wrinkles. Her body was shaking as if she was going to fall down at any moment. She looked frightened and confused. She said with a creaking voice, what did you say? I am an old woman. All right, stop pretending. You're only a 3-star martial emperor, Yun Xiao interrupted impatiently. Do you think no one will recognize you just because you put an aura-concealing talisman on your calf? It's no use. An excellent old woman like you will be like a firefly in the dark wherever you go. Hurry up and tell me the way to Tianyuan Trading Company. How did you find out? She asked after a long pause. Mo Xiaochuan laughed and said, everyone on the way here is a powerful martial artist. How could an old woman with no cultivation at all appear? Moreover, how could an ordinary old woman afford to eat so many herbal tea eggs? Hurry up and don't waste my young master's time. The old woman revealed a look of realization and said, I see. She looked at the two of them, then pointed to the north and said, Tianyuan Trading Company's encampment is about 10 miles away. It's the most magnificent place. How big is this city? Mo Xiaochuan asked in shock. The old woman grinned and said, it runs about 100 miles from east to west. Why don't you two buy a south-pointing chariot? As long as the location is set, this car will naturally take you there. This south-pointing chariot is a specialty of Yue Yang City. She pointed to a shop across the street. There were many strange-looking cars inside, and many people were sitting on the road. Yunxiao and Mo Xiaochuan found it quite fresh, and there were still a few days before the two meetings, so they were not in a hurry. They called for a two-seater car, set it to Tianyuan Trading Company's station, and then drove automatically. The owner frowned and muttered to himself, Tianyuan Trading Company? This time, he would definitely be stripped of his status as a permanent director. Who were these two people, and what was the so-called matter? This news must be sent up. Similar things had been happening in Yue City for the past few days. The entire city was a huge intelligence network. Dozens, even hundreds of chambers of commerce were gathering all kinds of information. The people working in the intelligence department were so busy that they were dizzy. Xiaochuan, what do you think of the merchant union? Yunxiao suddenly asked as he looked out at the bustling street in the south-pointing chariot. Mo Xiaochuan furrowed his brows and did not dare to give a casual reply. After thinking for a while, he said, it's as rich as a country, and it's extremely powerful. Yunxiao's eyes flickered as he said, if the entire merchant union is united, it can even surpass the 7 superpowers and become an existence comparable to the sanctuary and the Sea of Soul formation. Mo Xiaochuan was taken aback. He followed Yunxiao's gaze and looked at the 8 flags in the center of the city. Young Master Yun, do you mean that if I can become a permanent member of the business alliance, I can control the core of the business alliance and become an existence that can compete with any major force in the world? Yunxiao narrowed his eyes and said, on the surface, the merchant union looks like a pile of loose sand. But, almost all its power is in the hands of the 4 core alliances. And, among these 4 core alliances, Myriad Treasures Tower and 4 Extreme Sect are the leaders. These 2 sects controlled more than half of the power of the merchant union. If these 2 sects join hands, they will be able to command the entire merchant union and become a truly powerful existence. Mo Xiaochuan laughed. Don't worry about that. Whoever doesn't make a move in this majestic plan will definitely not cooperate with them. Not under normal circumstances, Yunxiao said. But if an external force comes one day, we brothers will fight against it and unite. External force? What do you mean, young Master Yun? Mo Xiaochuan asked. For example, the few super sects in the north, Yunxiao said with a smile. Who doesn't covet the interests of the merchant union or the holy region? What do you think the holy region is? If it wasn't for the fact that everyone understood this principle, once the merchant union was put under pressure, it would definitely lead to great unity. Therefore, for so many years, the merchant union has been developing in a very relaxed environment, and no one is stupid enough to touch them. Then what are the sects of the north up to? Mo Xiaochuan asked. Yunxiao said. I was born in hardship, I die in peace and happiness. He would let the merchant union have internal friction, and when the internal friction was enough, he could annex it. However, this could also lead to another very bad result, which is that an overlord might appear in the merchant union during the internal friction. If the merchant union is truly unified, it would be absolutely disastrous for the north region. But at least for now, I can't see such a trend. The sects of the north would not allow this to happen. They would definitely take all kinds of actions behind the scenes to break the internal unity of the merchant union. However, the merchant union is not easy to deal with either. But this kind of power struggle has nothing to do with us. The two of them continued to talk about all kinds of secrets of the continent, as well as the disputes of the situation in the past few years. While they admired the prosperity of Yue City, they were also very pleased. The south-pointing chariot finally arrived at the designated place and continued to move forward. A few martial artists appeared in front of them and blocked the road. They shouted, "Who are you? Please get out of the car." When Yunxiao showed them the token of Tianyuan Trading Company, the warriors' eyes lit up as they cried out in surprise, so it's a supreme class member. Yunxiao put away the token and said, on my way here, why does every merchant union seem to have drawn a circle and listed it as a forbidden area? No outsiders are allowed to enter. Such a big city is already surrounded by dozens of forbidden areas. The warrior said with a wry smile, my distinguished guest, you may not know this, but the two conventions of the merchant union this time are more intense than any previous years. Not only are there forbidden areas, but isolation formations have also been set up to shield the outside world from detection. Anyone who enters must be strictly checked. But you're a supreme member of the highest level, so you don't need to be checked. However, you can't go in for the time being, he said hesitantly. Why? Yunxiao frowned. I want to see your Miss Ding. Just now, the young master brought a group of people in. He strictly ordered that no one is allowed to enter without his orders, the warrior said with difficulty. Young master? Yunxiao frowned. Is the young master you mentioned Ding Peng, Ding Ling's younger brother? Yes, young master Ding Peng, the warrior said. We don't dare to disobey the orders from above. Please wait for a while. It shouldn't be long. Is Ding Ling among them? Yunxiao asked. Miss Ding is inside as well, the warrior said. She probably has something important to discuss. Suddenly, Yunxiao's heart jolted. An inexplicable sense of irritation welled up in his heart, as if he had a feeling that something was going to happen. Let me in. His expression suddenly changed. Then, without any further explanation, he strode in. Honored guest, please don't make things difficult for us. The surrounding martial artists were all shocked and said. Yunxiao had the supreme token of the highest level, and those who had it were all close friends of Tianyuan Trading Company, or those who had made great contributions to the trading company. There were no more than 5 people on the entire heavenly martial continent who had this token. They couldn't afford to offend such a person, but they had to obey Ding Peng's orders. All right, I won't make things difficult for you. Yunxiao spread out his spiritual power, and the space twisted, immediately teleporting him and Mo Xiaochuan away, leaving behind a blank space. The martial artist was stunned and then said in shock, not good. They must have gone in, quickly inform young master Ding Peng. One of the warriors ran inside at full speed, and he could vaguely see Yunxiao and Mo Xiaochuan in front of them. He shouted desperately, stop. However, the two of them ignored him and disappeared from the forbidden area of Tianyuan Trading Company. The main hall in the base of Tianyuan Trading Company was gloomy. Ding Ling sat in the main seat, and Yu Rong stood behind her on her left. There were 4 other warriors standing in a row behind her. They were not strong, all of them only at the cultivation of martial emperor. On the guest seat, a young man in high spirits was slowly savoring the fragrant tea in his hand, gently opening the tea leaves with the tea cover from time to time. There were also 4 martial artists standing beside the man. They all had cold expressions and were filled with a murderous aura. A young man walked up to the main seat. He did not dare to look Ding Ling in the eye. He lowered his head and said, Sister, I'm doing this to help Tianyuan Trading Company. This Chamber of Commerce was built by father, I can't just watch him be destroyed. Ding Ling's cold and angry eyes shifted from him to the young man below. She said coldly, Young Master Wu, if you have anything to say, just say it. Ding Ling is all ears. The young man, Wu Yu, put down his teacup and said with a smile. Little Sister Ling's words and actions are still so nimble. I have always admired her. Ever since I saw little Sister Ling at the Mind Source competition in the eastern region. Don't mention the past, Ding Ling interrupted. If there's nothing else, young Master Wu, you can leave now. Wu Yu was not angry. He chuckled and said, why is Sister Ling getting more and more impatient? Is it related to the current situation of Tianyuan Trading Company? To let little Sister Ling work all day and have a bad temper? What's wrong with Tianyuan Trading Company's situation? Ding Ling snorted coldly. I feel that everything is fine. Sis. Ding Peng couldn't help but scold her. Young Master Wu is here to help us, but why is your attitude so cold? You're pushing the Chamber of Commerce into the fire pit by rejecting your friends. No wonder the Chamber of Commerce has been getting worse and worse after father handed it over to you. Ding Peng. Step aside. Ding Ling shouted angrily. Their Luochu Chamber of Commerce has been eyeing us covetously and has been secretly dealing with us all these years. They are our number one enemy, but you actually said you would help us. When did you mix with them? After being scolded, Ding Peng's face turned red. He roared, "What do you mean by hanging out? I'm here to discuss business with you as the young master of Tianyuan Trading Company. You will only continuously make enemies for the Chamber of Commerce, but I can turn enemies into friends. Not only will I no longer fight against us, but I will also help us. It's clear how much power we have between us." Ding Ling was so angry that her whole body trembled. Get lost. I'll be in charge of Tianyuan Trading Company. Why? Ding Peng asked coldly. Just because of a muddled decision from her father? His father was already old and couldn't distinguish between good and bad people. For such an important meeting, his father didn't even attend. He was already powerless to do anything about the Chamber of Commerce. As for me, as father's only son, I can't just watch the Chamber of Commerce be destroyed in your hands. You're pissing me off. Old you, take him down and lock him up. Ding Ling slammed the table and stood up in anger. Wu Yu laughed coldly for a long time before he slowly said, "Little sister Ling, there's no need to be angry. Your brother may be young, but he's no less talented than you in all aspects. What he said is true. If we can reach an agreement today, then our two chambers of commerce will be as close as one family, and there will no longer be any distinction between each other and enemies. Isn't this a great thing? You've been in power for so long, but have you ever reached this step?" Ding Ling suppressed the anger in her heart and said coldly, "Oh, I'd like to hear how this good-for-nothing brother of mine is talking to you about how close we are as a family." Wu Yu smiled and said, "It's actually a very simple matter. Tianyuan Trading Company had been very prosperous for a while, but now it was in decline. Their overall strength is far inferior to our Luochu Chamber of Commerce. However, if you can obtain the full support of my Luochu Chamber of Commerce, you will definitely be able to return to the peak." Wu Yu, has your Luochu Chamber of Commerce become a charity? Ding Ling said coldly. You're learning from that screw-like martial sovereign, who doesn't benefit himself at all but only benefits others. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Wu Yu laughed. Little sister Ling naturally had to pay as well. It's actually very simple. As long as Sister Ling marries me, we husband and wife will be in charge of the two major chambers of commerce, and then merge them into one. Then, the position of permanent member will be in the bag, right?
Yeah.
Sis. Ding Peng said. When young Master Wu becomes my brother-in-law, the two chambers of commerce will be close. Brother-in-law will be the president and I will be the vice president. At that time, it would be easy to get into the core four alliances. Ding Ling was so angry that she almost fainted on the spot. Her delicate body trembled constantly, and she couldn't say a word. Young Master Peng, you're really stupid. Yu Rong said angrily. Isn't this the same as giving the Chamber of Commerce to this Wu guy? Ding Peng pointed at Yu Rong and shouted, Who do you think you are? How dare you teach me a lesson? Old servant, get lost. Sister, don't listen to this old servant's nonsense, he said. When the time comes, we'll share the Chamber of Commerce, and brother-in-laws will be yours. Otherwise, with the current situation, I won't be able to hold on any longer. Once I lose my membership, I'll immediately face the end of being swallowed. I'm doing this for the good of my father's foundation.